Oh no, we're already streaming. Hey guys, haha. All right, it's Brushfire Mind. We're going to be talking about the Christchurch shooting tonight. And I want to open with one very important detail about the Christchurch shooting. Forgive me for looking off to the side. I'm setting up something else on my right here. Um, the thing, the biggest takeaway that I want everybody to think about, and anybody who's a usual watcher of this show, absolutely the most important thing for you to remember is this: everybody who mentions gun control, every single uh, political figure, activist, every one of your what's his face, the little shithead kid from Florida, um, every single one of them that starts to talk about gun control, it's this simple, people. If you think that the answer to a mass shooting in New Zealand is to start enacting more gun control around the world anywhere, you are being you're you're being asked by an evil man to do the thing that you already want to do. Okay, this shithead's, and I'm not going to say his name, Mario, and I would appreciate it if you didn't.
Yeah.
We won't give him that. We will look at his manifesto a bit. We'll dissect a little bit of that. We're going to have a conversation about the situation first. But if you are talking about gun control and you think that grabbing guns is the right answer, the evil man who murdered 50 people understands that that's what you want to do. The evil man wants you to do the evil thing that you already evilly want to do. So let me be very clear on this. In my estimation, there is no crime for which the penalty is not death, which is also actually a crime. Rule number one: crime is harm. Any effort that is made by any person to strip away the life, liberty, or the pursuit of happiness of any other person, especially by means of force, is to cause willful harm to that person. If you go after the Second Amendment of the United States of America, that is literally under the laws of the United States, not just in my philosophical estimation. It is a crime. This isn't complicated. The law is very clear. The pursuit of gun bans, gun registrations, and dare I say background checks on the possession of firearms under the constitutional law of the United States of America, and the passage of any law which enacts any restriction on the right of the free man to keep and bear arms, is a criminal offense.
Here, here.
There is no debate on this. That is the fact of the matter. If you would like to debate whether or not that should be the case, that's another question. But the fact of the matter is this: every signatory to every existing law which in the United States registers or restricts the ownership of a firearm by an American citizen, every single signatory to every one of those laws is a criminal in violation of the federal law of the United States of America. And they should be treated precisely as such. Now, now that we've gotten over reminding you that you should not be complying with the requests of the evil man who did the evil thing, let's talk about the evil thing. Mario, you want me to run on with it for a minute, or do you have a hot take for me?
I just wanted to remind people out there who might misunderstand and to follow on what you previously stated that, hey kids, murder's bad. Don't do it.
Murder
Thanks.
is bad. That's a
Disclaimer.
okay. Bear with me just a second. Little technical issue. All right. I was just double checking our sound quality, so we're firing on all cylinders. Good. I was a little worried about
You
that
talked
since
about
we're
the
doing.
one second. Yeah, you talked about the Second Amendment real quick, right?
Yeah,
You
bring it
talked
on.
about the Second Amendment, and yeah, that's good, and I agree 100% with what you said. But I also want to talk about the First Amendment here for a moment, okay?
Yes.
So, as you know, the New Zealand government has literally criminalized it. It's now a criminal act in New Zealand and actually Australia at this point, and the United Kingdom, basically all throughout the British Commonwealth, right? Your Five Eyes states,
I was just about to say.
all except yeah, all except America. It is actually a crime to watch the video or to read the manifesto of the guy. Okay. Um, Personally, I consider this outrageous. Okay, I'm a man. I'm a U.S. citizen. I have constitutional rights. I have a First Amendment, and that includes most certainly includes the ability to seek primary sources. All right, so I have the right to look at this. I'm an adult. I have my natural rights. I am governed by natural law, which is basically enshrined by the U.S. Constitution. And if I want to seek primary documents, no matter how grisly, repugnant, or ugly they are, that's every person's natural right to do so. So, and furthermore, blocking primary sources of an event is an assured way to allow the media to control the narrative completely with you having no firsthand knowledge of what actually happened. So it's whack-a-mole right now on the internet trying to find anything basically primary source that's not been filtered through a basically media or government source. So keep freedom alive. Post it out there. If you don't like what this guy did, if you find the guy's manifesto disgusting, it should be freely accessible. There are holes in it, and it's pretty shoddily put together. So if everybody saw it, everybody would see, it basically put it to the hive. Let people defeat it with their own arguments. Don't ban it. You ban something, if you ban something, you validate the people, you validate the adversary himself. Same reason why I don't want ISIS videos banned and stuff like that. But
so
let it be seen.
The old adage: if you outlaw bananas, then only bananas will have outlaws. but for real, if anything you outlaw, there will continue to be criminals who are in possession of that object, whether it be food, drugs, firearms, knives, whatever. Anytime you ban something, you take it away only from the lawful citizen. Such is the case here. In New Zealand, I'm not entirely up on the particular gun laws in New Zealand, but let me tell you a little something about Georgia. If you walk into a church in Georgia and open fire, it will be a short experiment. With very few exceptions, you're not going to walk into a church in Georgia or Texas or Alabama where armed men are not prepared to return fire and send you exactly where you need to go. They'll fast track you, and it's not going to be that there's one guy there. No. One of the concerns with being a concealed carry armed citizen is that when the enemy does present himself, I'm dipping my beard in my coffee. Isn't that fun? When the enemy does present himself, um, you need your window where he's not looking directly at you, so you can draw your weapon and return fire. Well, you got 200 or 300 people in the pews in a church in the South, and I'd be surprised if less than 10% of them. So 20 or 30 guys, and it's not just the men down here that carry. Um, there's a very, very high likelihood that a dozen or more weapons will be pointed at you, and they will not ask you to drop your weapon. That's not how we raise our kids here.
So I wanted to just having someone who's actually I watched the video in its entirety. I watched it. Okay, there are, if you want to talk about concealed carry, right? So objectively speaking, if someone in that mosque had actually been concealed carrying a weapon, that guy would have been dead within the first 5 minutes of that rampage. Okay, so within the video, there's one particular sequence where the guy gets a misfeed. Okay, where basically the magazine well's got a round that's diagonal where it's not feeding into the chamber, and he's not military. The guy wasn't military. The guy military. The guy doesn't know. He didn't know sports. Okay, it took him a full 15 seconds to realize that, oh crap, I gotta basically disconnect the magazine and let the round fall out, and then I can basically rechamber. Right? It took him 15 seconds to do that. So if he had done that in America, he'd be dead. Within 15 seconds, he would have been shot down. There probably would have been like friendly fire wounds from basically multiple people opening fire on him. Okay. The other thing, like he goes into the mosque, he drops all of his magazines almost right right in the front door. Okay, and you can see in the video he has to keep coming back to get fresh ammunition and go back in.
Oh my God! See, I haven't seen the video, and I probably won't bother.
It's basically, if you look at the guy from a tactical perspective, okay, and like you and I would understand this, but he's the kind of guy basically who he knew how to use his weapons. Okay, he obviously spent a little bit of time at the firing range, but he had no tactical training whatsoever. Didn't know sports. Basically, didn't know his his mag change drill. Pathetic. Like 5 seconds. 5 seconds from running out of ammunition to starting with a new magazine. You know what I mean? Bad. The point I'm getting at is if New Zealand had concealed carry laws, he'd be dead. There would have been like maybe 5 people dead.
Yeah, and okay, I'm glad you mentioned the tactical piece of that. This conversation's taken a slightly different turn than I had intended it to originally, but this is good
we should
stuff.
Diverge quickly, yeah.
This is definitely worth talking about.
Yeah.
One of the points, one of the complaints, I guess, that's frequently registered by the anti-Second Amendment crowd is that, oh well, you just have anybody running around that get a gun. And that's the thing, though. Those of us that are lawful firearms owners, by a wide margin, people who make it a point to carry a firearm most of the time, by a wide margin, we don't just train with our weapons because we think it's our responsibility. You got to understand, it's not just that we take it as a responsibility very seriously, but firearms owners, especially those that go so far as to get a concealed carry license and conceal and carry, they enjoy training. We are interested in the knowledge. We are interested in the mechanics of it. We are interested in being able to understand and explain how our weapon works, how to repair our weapon if it breaks down, how to maintain our weapon, keep it clean, keep it lubricated, keep it ready to rock and roll. We're interested in improving our marksmanship. We're proud of our ability to put the round where we want it to be. I was doing a battalion training exercise right after I got back from Afghanistan, and my first sergeant at the time, I won't say his name on the air just in case, but my first sergeant at the time had he had the power stack. He was a ranger. He was all that good stuff. You know, pretty fucking outstanding first sergeant, and one of my favorite leaders that I ever worked under. And he shot a 39 out of 40 on the range that day. I of course shot a 40 out of 40 on the range that day, and I said, "Hey Top,
Tangent warning.
hey
Tangent
Top,"
warning. 1, 2, 3.
and I said, "Hey Top, I'm doing remedial rifle training this weekend if you're interested." For his 39 out of 40. But yeah, a little bit of a tangent with the story, but the point is,
Back to PMI tops.
people who yeah. You're gonna have to check in your chute until you learn how to operate that rifle. but the point, the majority of the people who do carry, who do make it a point to carry, really do actively train, right? And they may not get the opportunity to go and train with a unit, or even, you know, something as simple as join a militia. But hell, even something as simple as getting involved in playing airsoft with guys who have the training, where you're part of a team and you talk about tactics and you talk about how to clear a room, how to return fire from cover, how to take cover under fire. You know, I mentioned airsoft. I used to play a shitload of airsoft. I actually haven't touched my airsoft guns in a couple of years now, which breaks my heart. But pile of youngins, business, daddy's busy. But for those of you who are going to carry, who are going to seriously conceal and carry, think about getting an airsoft gun and go and play at one of the little fields. Get involved with some people. Play Call of Duty. You know, it is not a suitable replacement for military training, but it is a tactical environment where you do have to at least think about tactics and make them a part of your habit and a part of your thought process. Um, it is not the case. I will give this alone to the lefties. It is not the case that to simply own a firearm is equivalent to having proficiency with the awesome weight of that responsibility. It is, however, the case that the bulk of firearms owners are not casual firearms owners. They own the firearm intentionally, and the ownership of that firearm is an awesome responsibility, which does weigh on them.
I agree.
The bulk of the exception to that rule, one might think, and I would actually have to think about this and do some because I think it may be contrary, but one might think that your habitual criminal element that carry firearms do not take the firearm as seriously as they should. I would not, however, be surprised to find that there are a lot of gang members who actually go out of their way to spend time at a firing range and talk about, you know, even if they do a bad job of it, just like mentally wargaming. How do I deal with returning fire under this situation? How do I deal with taking cover? What's cover versus concealment? How can me and my homies form an effective squad? You know, I'd be surprised if they're getting into like react to contact, react to ambush battle drills, but well, no, I wouldn't be surprised. I know that some of them, in fact, are, and I know that one of the things that is a problem for the military is we do get people who join the military explicitly
Absolutely.
to go
That's
through basic combat training, so
yeah,
that they can learn those skills and take them back to the unit, back to the gang.
Ex-military are prized as gang members. So, but what I want to say as far as basically, you know, personal ownership of a firearm, it's that when you buy a weapon, what I would ask of you is just understand that you now have an awesome responsibility. You have made the conscientious choice to neither be the sheep nor the wolf. You are now the sheepdog, and you have a responsibility to know how to use that weapon. If you buy a weapon and you don't know how to use it and you don't train with it, you are an irresponsible gun owner. So you're not a vigilante either. You chose to be the sheepdog. So basically learn how to bite. That's what I'd ask.
Yeah, and let me. I'm gonna clarify on that a little, or expand on that a little bit. Um, I carry a pistol most of the time. I do not carry a pistol because I think that I'm going to need it in some altercation on the street. Some punk kid's going to get up in my face and start calling me names, or even run up and take a swat at me. I'm a 350 pound, six and a half foot tall dude with a lot of experience in boxing rings, wrestling rings, and actual live combat. The last thing in the world I'm worried about is some punk kid running up and picking a fight and me needing to shoot him because I don't know how to throw a punch. However, if I'm in a supermarket, a liquor store, a bank, a gas station, and there are other people in that building, people who are not giants, people who are not used to getting shot at, it is my responsibility as a moral agent to be defensive on their behalf should the need arise. If the need were to arise and I were to fail in my responsibility as a man, because the defense of those weaker than you is in fact the responsibility of a man. If I were to shirk that, I could no longer call myself a man or a husband or a father.
You're the
It would
sheepdog.
make me a bad person.
You're the sheepdog. And another thing, it's like the reason you train, and I don't want to talk anymore about this, honestly. Like, reason you train with a weapon, the reason you need to train with your weapon is because you need to understand, in a civilian capacity, if you go into a situation knowing full well that you are going to use your weapon, 98% of the time, you're the criminal. It's the criminal who does that. It's the civilian, it's the law-abiding citizen who finds himself in need of a weapon with basically split-second decision time, and he needs to be able to have the muscle memory and the discipline to know how to use that weapon when he least expects to use it. Premeditation of using the firearm in the civilian world, that's the criminal's angle. You need to be ready for it, and that's why muscle memory and training is so important.
I've actually never heard it put that way. That's brilliant. That's fantastic.
It's true.
Yeah, that's spot on.
But anyway, about
yeah, I really like that. Well played.
He who shall not be named from New Zealand.
The cuck.
To be fair, he was actually a Chad. Like the guy, I told you, he's okay. Well, let's get into it. So basically, you see mass shooters, all right, with increasing frequency in today's sick clown world, right? And on underground boards, poll being one of them, politically incorrect from 4chan, you often see in the event of basically a mass shooting tragedy, you'll see people coming in from various directions on the message boards asking if equal parts people saying like, oh, it was a psyop, insert whatever alphabet soup agency you want to. That's the boogeyman of the day. He's responsible for it. Or basically it was basically a left-wing psychopath who forgot to take his medication that morning. That's actually more true than not, unfortunately. Or it was basically, was it a real no shit white right-wing extremist? Okay. So this is that first incident, probably the first incident oh man, I'm pulling here, okay? The last 100% confirmed right-wing extremist that I know who committed a terrorist attack was probably Timothy McVeigh, okay?
That's it.
Timothy McVeigh was, 100%, he totally was a right-wing extremist, okay? He was basically the take your Gadsden flag and basically put a grenade around the snake and basically change the motto to, I swear to God, I'll kill you all, I'll kill us all if you fuck with me, okay? That was Timothy McVeigh. So this guy basically bought in 100% to message board culture and to the meme culture and was steeped in basically all of that, all the subcultural mimetic influences that we have seen in the last, since at a minimum 2016. This guy is basically, he's basically put a NASCAR outfit on him and basically attach every right-wing message board on the internet. This guy was 100% sponsored by the underground internet.
I don't think "sponsored by" is the word you're looking for.
I know. Inspired by. Point is,
I don't even think that's actually correct.
The point is, in the underground, there's a lot of debate every time there's a shooting as to who is basically responsible and was he quote our guy, right? This guy really was completely traceable to politically incorrect, whether it be 4chan or 8chan, right? And it's interesting. It's basically what the guy said in his manifesto about, after I do this, governments are going to take these predictable steps, and the corporate entities that control media internet traffic are going to take these predictable steps. They're doing exactly what he said that they would do. And I don't know, it really is a sea change right now. How this is going to long-term affect. Larry, I'm struggling here. I lost my train of thought, man.
So, the most terrifying thing about the outcome here, is that the reactions have been so precisely predictable. It is less frightening to me that one man can kill 50 men with a gun than that one man can, having taken any terrible action, then publish a manifesto which writes the script for the planet. Because that's what he did. He wrote a script and he published it. And that script is now the narrative. So here, I have a few problems with that. I don't want to go down the whole dark road about false flags and get into any of that complicated shit yet. But without even going down the road of false flags, let's assume this guy is genuinely exactly what he says he is, which is a left-wing extremist. He does state that. If you could go so far as to
eco-fascist.
Yes. Okay, let's clear something up real quick. Fascism belongs exclusively to the left. 100% exclusively to the left. Jordan Peterson. I rather like Jordan Peterson. I do. I enjoy his lectures. But here's the thing that most bothers me. The only thing that really bothers me in Peterson's stuff. He will ask the question of lefties, how do you know when the left goes too far? And then he will say, for example, we know when the right goes too far. That looks like Nazi Germany. And I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense.
No.
Now, all through, I can remember it as clearly as it was yesterday, all through my public school education, it was always presented as if actual communism, like Soviet communism, is extreme left-wing, and Nazism is extreme right-wing, right? And the distinction that they attempt to make is that Nazism includes racism, and that somehow fascism is different than the bourgeois totalitarianist governing body over communism. These are ludicrous distinctions. For starters, Marx was a steeped racist. It is very, very clear to me that most of your young Marxists and communists have not read Das Kapital. Y'all, read some fucking books. Read a damn book. Marx advocated for the extermination of the blacks and Jews. That's Karl Marx. Karl Marx was all for, he argued that you should exterminate the black men because they're not smart enough to do anything, that they're not intelligent enough to be useful to the communist state, and that you should exterminate the Jews because they're too smart to be controlled by the state. He made these arguments. This is Das Kapital. I know the book is that damn thick, but for fuck's sake, read something.
And the eerie thing about it is that's coming from the son of a 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 rabbi. Like,
yes. Yes, Karl Marx, who owned one pair of pants and starved his children to death in his drunken stupor, and demanded that the government give him money because he only had one pair of pants and his wife needed those to go to the grocery store so he couldn't work.
Well, that's why he was friends with Engels. He needed a sugar daddy. That's why. Oh, well, Larry, God, it's like a topic for a whole nother show, but I wanted to say that when it comes to like fascism and communism and saying that they're on the same spectrum, what I think is that both are a chaotic reaction from society being severed from logos. And it's basically what extreme direction you look at society and you say it's over. It's done. It's broken. What extreme direction do I want to take to correct this? Okay? You've either got communism or fascism, okay? They're both result in totalitarianism, but it's a reaction to a decadent society's rejection of logos. That's what they are. It doesn't even need to be on a right-left spectrum. It's just fascism tends to be more nationalistic and communism tends to be more international, more cosmopolitan, if you will. Uh-oh, he's writing. I used the word logos with the philosopher. We're F now.
I'll give you this.
Communist, fascist. What is that?
Representative Republic.
Oh, okay.
There. Is that better?
Thank you. I am but a pleb, and I need my labels. Thank you.
Well, that, and I'm not sure how it shakes out with the mirroring. Because as I'm holding it like this, my right hand is on the left side of the page.
I can read backwards. But red rum. I'm good. So let's get into like maybe a little bit of the meta about why something like this would happen, right? So a lot of what the shooter put in this manifesto is definitely true. It is a legitimate grievance, that basically that traditional people living in the Western world have, is that why do we see year by year our culture, our civilization being, increasingly being colonized or replaced by people from other parts of the world that basically don't share our ethnic background, don't share our cultural values, don't share the mores, basically, that are the foundation of what we are. And I blame the Cultural Revolution starting in the 1960s that helped us to forget who we were and therefore left us wide open and susceptible to outside influence. Basically, the virtualization of the other, as opposed, along with the demonization of basically ourselves. It's the ultimate corruption of, like, deconstructionism, that, critical theory that you saw. This is on a long enough timeline, and I think honestly you see it with European peoples, where we are patient to a fault, altruistic to a fault. You see people accept a pendulum swinging in one direction, and then it swings back in the other way, and it's violent and it's awful. And whatever. What I'm saying is that the more that native people in the United States and Europe are dispossessed of their lands that were either that they are indigenous to or that were conquered by their forefathers, the more people see themselves dispossessed and strangers in their own society, the more call you're going to see, organic and inorganic, for this type of extremism. And I really think that if I would just love to see, I'd love to see one politician. There's actually one in Australia, but I won't get into him. I'd like to see someone maybe in the United States come out and publicly state that maybe if we stopped with the demographic pressure on our native-born population, maybe social cohesion would improve. Is that radical to say? Apparently it is. But the guy's a sign of the times. This is going to happen. It's going to happen with increasing frequency. And, another alarming thing that's really getting to a lot of normies is you see all the public outcry over 50 dead Muslims in New Zealand, but then again, you look at the scores and scores and scores of bodies that have piled up in Europe and the United States. We're not even talking about 9/11, okay, because we're not even going to go there. Scores of bodies from terrorist attacks in Europe, let's say in Europe in particular, right? And what we always see are the, hashtag pray for whatever city was violently assaulted by by a Muslim terrorist, right? And then, followed by hashtags of not all Muslims, or not all this sect of Islam, or not all like this. And of course, the media will cherry pick an instance where there was this Muslim who actually performed a valiant act to save someone, as a result of the terrorist attack. You see basically the institutional forces going out of their way to try to sculpt the narrative in the wake of an Islamic terrorist attack in the most optimistic manner possible. Where after essentially 50-something Islamic terrorist attacks in Europe, you get one terrorist attack where a white nationalist, goes on an effing rampage, and there's none of that mitigating force asking us to, say there's no hashtag not all white nationalists, pray for Christchurch, you know what I mean? Like, you're never going to see a media campaign coming from anyone associated with Al Jazeera saying pray for Christchurch, not all Christians. Like, you're never going to see that, right? So it's
not all gun owners.
Not all gun owners. Not all white people, like.
Well, and you talk about.
Not going to see that.
You talk about the culture. You mentioned the culture.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're talking about people who think of culture, and when they say culture, they mean this.
Yeah.
Or they mean this.
Lowry, diversity is our strength. Stop.
But this. No. This is culture. This is culture. This is culture. Right? This is
true.
Culture.
It is culture.
But
not all cultures are equal.
But
it requires a superior culture to have a Second and First Amendment.
But this is not culture. This is just stuff. It doesn't mean anything as far as they're concerned. There's nothing beautiful here.
It's the result of capital. It's capital, Larry. That's what that is.
Right? And this is certainly not culture. There's nothing good here, nothing beautiful here. Right?
I lived in Texas for 8 months and I never went to one of those. It's one of my regrets.
I'm heartbroken by that. This is not culture. But this is not. Not. You see what I'm getting at here? Those things are not culture. That's not beauty. There's nothing positive there.
The problem is that Western society has become so commercialized that what we viewed as our culture has essentially been broken into individual units of consumption. That's what's happened, Lowry, where our consumerism has co-opted the culture. If it doesn't have a dollar value, it doesn't have meaning. And that's honestly that's me being self-critical about Western civilization. That's where we've gone wrong. And that's another side of basically the new right. It's not you look at the new right, the alt-right, whatever. It's not a call for people to basically act in violence against the other. You get some of that on the fringes where you drew this most recent shooter from, but mostly it's a call to basically return to tradition and return to the values that basically got us here, that we forgot. And we sold it all and we commercialized it all and capitalized every bit of it, compartmentalized it into individual saleable blocks. And here we are. We're a people that don't have an identity. And this was probably by design. Some of us are aware enough, but the average 20-something-year-old today, with their apps on their phone, who likes to post with, it's a new one. I am literally the 30-year-old boomer meme. Okay, like we are. That's who we are right now, Larry, as far as the internet's concerned. But
30-year-old boomer.
We're the 30-year-old boomer. Yeah, that's who we are in 4chan speak.
That's a new one on me, buddy.
Well, no, it actually cuts pretty deep, because what it means is that we were that last generation that had access to all the material wealth of the boomer generation. Okay, and we're the generation that actually saw in real time it decline into the shit show that it is today. But we know everything's wrong. We saw an image of what things could have been back in the 80s, but unfortunately, because of marriage, children, mortgages, we're too far into the current system to violently rebel against it. That's why they view us as the co-opted. We're the 30-year-old boomer. And wow. It's true. At some level, it's true.
Wow.
I have 3 children under 8 years old. I can't afford to be a rebel. I'm sorry. Call me a coward. My little girls deserve a father. Yeah, let's go through. What time is it anyway?
It's we've only got about 10 minutes left, so we're not going to get into the manifesto much.
All right, scrolling and cherry picking. Go.
Do what?
Let's cherry pick this thing.
Done.
All right.
All right. It's can you see it, or do you have it up, or do you?
I can see it. Yeah, of course.
Okay. Who are you? It's why did you carry out the attack? To to most of all show the invaders to our lands that invaders to our lands will never be their lands. Our homelands are our own, and that as long as white man still lives, they will never conquer our lands and they will never replace our people. Okay.
Okay. You could take this. So, okay, you could take this. Picture yourself in 1870. Okay, this could have been written by a Navajo in response to the U.S. Army moving into the southeast. It's what he's saying. It's a cry for we are the indigenous people of this land. It is our land. It is our birthright. And by coming here and claiming the construct of citizenship doesn't make you one of our people. That's what he's saying. What really gets me is the revenge for Aba Ackerland. Okay, now you saw the photos of what happened there, right, Lowry?
No, I'm not tracking on who Aba Ackerland is. That's new
Okay,
on me.
Aba Ackerland, and you know what? And it's an effing crime that you don't know who she is. Aba Ackerland was a 12-year-old Swedish girl who was walking home from school to basically walking to her mother's apartment, little Swedish girl, and she was run down and severed in half by a migrant, okay, driving an Islamic truck of peace. All right. Pictures were shown across the world of a 12-year-old girl cut in half, her offals spread all across the street. Okay.
Jesus
and
Christ.
and
Now you said truck of peace. You do mean a suicide bomber truck, right?
he wasn't a suicide. Trucks of peace, basically, migrants getting a hold of an 18-wheeler and driving it into public setting. Like same thing with the Christmas market in Germany 2 years ago.
Okay, so no bomb, just
No bomb.
just a heavy ass murder weapon.
Same thing with 2 years ago in Nice, France, where basically migrant gets a hold of a large truck,
Yeah.
box truck, right, just crushes into people. That's Aba Ackerland.
So he went on after he murdered this little girl to murder a bunch more people.
Yeah, he drove through as many people as he could. This was in Sweden. Yeah. And not once did the Swedish government question, and this isn't the only thing that's happened in Sweden. Sweden, there are sections of Sweden that are third world country at this point, okay?
Yeah.
Sweden is honestly on message boards, Sweden is viewed as a meme country at this point. And like actual Swedish posters unironically state USA, like Trump, please nuke us. Just end it.
That's a little grim. Don't they know we could do it with a Moab and there'd be no fallout?
Target Malmo. Malmo, if anyone's listening in the deep state, Malmo. Bombing. Okay. Anyway, moving on.
Okay. So, to incite violence, retaliation, and further divide between the European people and the invaders currently occupying European soil.
Is this not the theme of the day? Accelerationism. You keep hearing it again and again. It's all about the accelerationism now.
We've been talking about accelerationism a lot in our private conversations lately, and I do not want to see us accelerate. But let me say this about that. There is part of me that wants to see a civil war break out in this country sooner rather than later because
numbers, man.
I fear that it is inevitable sometime within the next 50 to 60 years.
Yep.
And more than that, I fear that it will happen later rather than sooner. And it will be the case that my children have to bear that war instead of me. I would prefer that it occur while I am still strong enough to do the work that must be done and spare it of my children.
Amen. I couldn't have said it better.
My absolute preference
would be
fight
this war.
My absolute preference would be that it never happened. But since I am near certain that that is not an option, let it be for me and not for my progeny.
Thank you. Picture my nightmare. Well, I mean, you know too, Larry. Same thing. Picture you have three daughters in their early 20s, and then the Civil War happens.
I was about to say I do have three daughters.
I know, yeah, so do I. Picture that in their early 20s, and the Civil War breaks out. You know what I mean? Like, is that an ideal tactical situation for you?
No.
When you're in your 50s? No, it's an effing nightmare. That's what the accelerationists basically want, okay? And that's why you're seeing all this yang gang, yang gang, yang gang, yang gang, yang gang, 2020 stuff, right, going on. It's basically you've got a growing contingent, okay, on basically on the underground right, who have essentially given up on Donald Trump, okay? I haven't completely given up on Donald Trump. There's 2 more years, but things look kind of grim because he's all alone there in Washington, D.C. No one's helping him. No one's going to support him. And basically, it's going to be the force of will of one man if we're going to turn this country around, as opposed to having it further degenerate. Honestly, worst case scenario is that the Donald Trump presidency was basically a temporary bandage on an inoperable wound on the United States. That's my fear. And it's a very real fear.
Yep.
The accelerationists are saying Trump was the last chance for this to be resolved peacefully. And Trump couldn't do it, whether it's Trump's fault or people around him or whatever. It doesn't matter at this point, right? It doesn't matter. Burn the whole damn house of cards down now while we have the numbers to fight it, as opposed to prolonging the death. That's the point of accelerationism. That's why you'll see people who, I don't know if it's real or not, maybe it's just a meme, maybe people are joking, but why you'd see people vote for basically the most retarded Democrat politician available to basically crush the system, essentially.
Oh, you mean Alexandria Occasional Courtesan?
Sure, man. Cortisone. Yeah.
Courtesan.
You know about... You know,
like the whore, not the stuff you put on your poison ivy.
I prefer occasional cortex.
Yeah, I love the occasional cortex joke. Thank you, Andrew Clavin.
I'm basic, so don't ask me. That's why you're seeing people who are saying vote for the far left. Recognize the Cloward Piven strategy, okay, which basically is to overload America's social safety net to the point where we become insolvent and the dollar collapses and we have a finalizing economic collapse, right? That was a left-wing strategy to bring on. That was a early, a Alinskyite strategy to break the United States. What this newer movement on the far right is saying is that, you know what? F it. Embrace it 100%. Bring it to the ground, and then let's solve this. When CNN no longer has a say on public opinion, and when it's just people in the streets, hungry, angry, and violent, let's solve it on our most primal level. That's the point of accelerationism. It's when you're like the guy who did the shooting, and you're 28 years old and you have no children, no family, and you're just a man unto yourself who's, lost and without direction. Yeah, that might seem appealing, but the rest of us who are invested in the current model, whether we love it or not, it's madness. We can't do that. So anyway, I'm rambling. We should just go on.
No, I think we need to go ahead and draw it to a close. We've only got 4 minutes left of the broadcast hour, and I don't want to go over tonight. Frankly, I would like to keep talking about this. I think there is a lot to be said. There's a lot of complex analysis that needs to be done on this manifesto, because I will give it this. My suspicion is that it is a brilliantly, carefully cobbled together piece of search engine optimization. It's essentially world narrative SEO designed explicitly to cause havoc. And this guy's views are all very left-wing. He's an absolute shill for the mainstream left. the pseudo environmentalism, the anti-gun rhetoric, um, the patent admission that the point to using a gun instead of other available means is to ignite the gun conversation. The child is, I mean, he is exactly the sort of thing that every current Democrat politician prays for.
But he was outright and honest in saying why he wanted that. He said he used guns because he specifically wants the United States, he wants politicians in the United States on the left to overreach and basically start drawing the visceral ire of patriotic Americans who prize their Second Amendment. He wants civil war in the United States. So he saw this as a contributing factor towards it. And of course you had occasional Cortex, attacking the NRA immediately as a result. So they're following the script, man. He wrote the script. He wrote the script for them. It's like in the original Godfather. It's like, I can't give him this role. It's perfect for him. It'll make him a big star. It's like,
yeah,
it's exactly what he did. And in that respect, a simple 84 pages of basically memeology. It shouldn't be brilliant, but the mainstream media will make it so.
All right. Well, that's our show for tonight. I'm going to go ahead and stop us there. I think. Oh, hello.
What do we have? One comment from the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be fantastic? No, I got a comment here from the unapologetic pagan. No, we did not get into the theory that AOC is a Manchurian candidate for the Young Turks. Although I like where your head's at.
Pagan?
Unapologetic pagan. This is one of my people.
Vargas here. Great. All right.
But yeah, so anyway, that's our show for tonight. We're going to call it a night. So until next week, remember, if you build a man a fire, you'll keep him warm for the evening. But if you set a man on fire, he'll be warm for the rest of his life. Good night.